Okay, so now we're recording. So I'm Joe Glines, and today's webinar on AutoHotkey is on site. And typically Jackie and I handle these, but he is on vacation traveling, as I'm sure some of you guys have had some good trips this summer already. And let me. So I don't have I'm not a programmer, but I've been using AutoHotkey for I don't know, around 10 years, somewhere in there. And I've been using Site for probably about 8 of them. And it is just an awesome editor. Let me go to the next slide here. So there were about 50 people registered. As I said, I think a lot of people won't show today just because of vacation. Trying to respond here to. So anyway, I don't expect too many people today because we also share the recordings after the webinar. And it's typically just Jackie and I mute everybody because when we have so many people on there and if people start talking, it would be mayhem. In a while, after we get through the main part of what I got to cover, which isn't a ton, I'm going to demonstrate a lot of stuff, talk to a couple things, and then listen for your feedback to try to see if you guys have certain restrictions. Certain interests in particular things, and so then we can go directly to what you're trying to do, and if I or anybody else on the call knows how to do it in Site, we'll hash through it. Let me reply one more time to the message here. So as I says, we do record these and then make them available to everybody after, and they'll be uploaded to YouTube. We have, I think, 11 webinars now, so there's quite a few there now. You can raise your hand if you look in the chat, or just type in chat. Now, because I'm doing this on my own today, it's going to be hard. I may go a while without noticing that you had mentioned something, so just give me a little bit of leeway here, and I may not get your question right away, but we'll get there. All right, so the first thing what we typically do is we start off with demonstrating a cool script. And today I was just kind of frantically looking around because I've shared a lot of the ones I use regularly. This one, which I have a hyperlink to it, which I'll make available. Actually, I can. Oh, why can't? Oh, stupid. PowerPoint is so fun. I can get to it this way. I'll put this into the chat here. So this is I uploaded the script to there. It was on the old forum, and unfortunately I couldn't find it on the new one, or even link to it. Actually it was on some sort of file. It was a weird archive. But what it does is it replaces your start menu. So I like having my start menu on the right, the taskbar and the start menu up top. But I realized, why have the word start written here and not use it? And so what I do is I replace my start button with the time and date. And this is nice because I can always have the time and date in big text instead of this tiny little text at the bottom of your system tray. And then I actually free up room in the system tray. And so this is written with AutoHotkey. Let me show you the actual script. This is the script right here. See, it was under this HTTP file autohotkey.net, and that was years ago. That's what they used to use, and it's no longer accessible that way. But it just, I didn't paste it in the PowerPoint because it just looked pretty ugly. But all it does is it replaces your start menu with the date and time. And so I have that always running, and it's just a great, easy way for me to be able to see what time it is. And I still hit the start menu. Everything works the same, right? It's just replacing the word start, and the Windows icon, I think, is typically in there. I've been using this since XP. So I've had it for a long time. It still works great. Simple, easy to use script that it's one of the things AutoHotkey does really well is hook into Windows and allow you to use the Windows API and do stuff. And to me, that's it's a great benefit of using AutoHotkeys. It can do so much with Windows. So anyway, so that is our script highlight of the day. Yay. There was this example here, by the way, and come on. Now see, I think that's a problem. I have to run it. And let me do that. Let me how do I get rid of that? There we go. Get rid of this. There was this link, which I'll also make available, that has a lot of other things. You can have the CPU and memory usage, and they link to other things. However, I used it for a while. I just didn't find it that helpful. But there are other examples on the forum you can find. Is all I'm trying to say. So, all right, let's get into Site. You know what? And I got to get out of this view because it makes it really hard. I can't see everyone and see who's writing. So I'll stick with this view. All right, so Site for AutoHotkey, written by Finks. Right, it's been around for quite a while. I grabbed most of this straight from his website of where you go and download it. Obviously, the installer works really well. He's got it pretty well documented. It's based off of I thought it was on here, but Scintilla and Site is just the base thing. But this is a custom version for AutoHotkey. This obviously the syntax highlighting and call tips are really helpful. AutoHotkey integration. So inside it, you can hit F1 and it'll automatically pull up the help. The debugging, which I'll demonstrate a little, but we have a webinar where we covered debugging. And so I would say if you're really interested in a deep dive into debugging, watch the webinar on debugging because we walk through it there. But hopefully we'll have time where I'll do a little example of that. And you can build your own extensions, and there's plenty of them out there. And you can do a crazy amount of customization with Site is the best way I can phrase it. Of course, with anything with a lot of customization means it's also going to be complex, and so that does deter some people from using it. This next slide here is just for me a reminder. Of course that script always acts funny when I go to use it in a webinar. So I'm going to get this and go back to Site here. Let me close this. This is my little cheat sheet for things that I'm going to demonstrate. So, come on. So one of the things I love about Site is the multi-line typing. And so let's say I wanted to get the first character. If you hold down the Alt key and drag with your mouse, you can go across lines. Whoa, something happened there. It looks like when that tooltip came out, that was interesting. The call tip, it looked like it broke that off. I don't know why. Yeah, that did that again. Interesting. I wonder if that's has something to do with the new setting I just did, because it didn't normally do that. But anyway, it's pretty cool because you can go in, you can go across. If I wanted to go and get rid of them, I could then come back in here and delete them. Right, so that alone to me is it's like black magic as far as I'm concerned, because only a couple editors I've seen I can do that. And so often if I'm grabbing data from like a web page or whatever, and I want specific things in there, or I realized, you know what, I should have had a comma, or I needed to have another word in between things, the ability to do that is really, really helpful. The other thing I just did, this dynamic IntelliSense note, it was a script I just found the other day, and what's really cool is as I'm typing, so even in this file, right, let me just say, now when I type, well, you know what I should do is, let's write what, taboo, okay? Now watch when I hit space and I start typing something close to that. So see how taboo gets offered up, right? The fact that it's interactively looking at this file, dynamically looking at my file, and it allows me to see what was typed before. It's really awesome because I can, all the variables I've created or function names or whatever, right, for this particular file, it'll go and grab them and offer them up of whatever I have. The problem is, of course, it looks in a lot of places. So you want to have things that are unique. My new var, and then why is it not working now? That's funny. Anyway, I just started this right before I went on my vacation. Let me go back. Let me go into an actual saved file and see if that helps at all. Yeah, and so there it worked. I'm not sure what happened in the last one, but so this script is dynamically looking at this file I'm in, and here you can see I have thousands of lines in my main script, right, where yeah, almost 2,000. Which is, again, very helpful. That is looking at this file. What I also have is a script that you can tell it to go iterate over whatever libraries you want. And so I have like my Excel functions I've written. And so if I start typing Excel _, these are a bunch of Excel functions I have in my Excel library file. And I have access to them. They're not in this file. I don't have an include right now from this file to it. But I have told AutoHotkey to go, I'm sorry, let me restate that. I've told Site to go look at specific files and folders. Actually, I pointed to certain folders and said, iterate over every file in this folder and grab the variables and functions and then basically use them in my Intellisense. So, boy, if you have custom functions you use a lot, it comes in really helpful. So, okay, so that was the first two. One I finally got working the other day. It was really stupid. I had actually didn't realize something about it, but I can highlight stuff and I can hold down Shift and move it up and down. So this comes in really handy. Let me go back to this one here. So let's say we're writing a function, and it doesn't really matter. But you realize that you did things out of order, right? Instead of cutting and pasting, and I can do it with multiple lines, actually. I can grab both of these, hold down Shift, and I'm just arrowing up and down, and I'm moving them up and down around whatever I want. And that one I really liked. I saw that in AutoHotkey Studio, and I remember years ago I had seen the options for it in Site, and I did them, and it didn't work. And I finally went back and figured out, which we'll cover here in a minute, the hows. Right now I'm just kind of demonstrating the cool things that I like about Site. Of course, the very simple things, right? Control-Q is a great toggler for what you're doing. And so typically what I do when I'm writing, like, let's say a regular expression that's really complicated and I get close to having it working right, what I'll do is two things. I hit Control-D, which will duplicate the line I'm on, and then Control-Q comments it out. So basically, I just created a backup of something that was very close, and then I go down to this one, and I'll monkey with this one. And that way I don't change the thing that was really close, and then it stops working. And even though undo works great, I just have a nice backup, which I can later go through and delete once I figure out the exact thing I want. But having hotkeys that I can just quickly do it. And it also, let me see here. Let me get rid of this and this. I think I don't use it often enough, but the box comment, Control-Shift-B. Okay, so let's see. If I do this, Control-Shift-B, so that puts that where it's across multi-lines. It doesn't do them individually. And so that can also, it's nice because then you can also fold it, right? That's what these plus and minuses are. Well, sorry, minus in here will allow you to, if you have thousands of lines of something inside a function, or I think Go subs work the same way. You can click this and expand or delete it, expand or collapse it, which can be very handy. Yeah, I will. I saw your comment, John. Yeah, I will definitely show that. It is, boy, once you get used to it, it's very handy. The moving around a text. So comment, apply, and change, apply. So here's another one, which depending on what you guys work in, right? I work in a lot of different languages, and let me. Well, I was thinking let me grab some text from something, but I'm trying to think what I could grab it from. It really doesn't matter. But what I can do is under language, see, I have these where I can come in and say, you know what, treat this as a JSON file, or treat it as an XML file, or treat it as a Visual Basic file. And it's basically just, even though the extension stays the same, in this case, I don't even have an extension. I haven't even saved the file. But some files, depending on what I'm working with, the Intellisense, even if I don't have the right language, often like this, where is it, the any and properties file, of course it doesn't, well, these are commented out. Let me see if, no, it still doesn't do much with those. But it often makes it pop where I can visually look at it, regardless of what language I'm actually programming in, right? So I have these built in where I can instantly change it even without changing the extension, and just tell it, apply that Intellisense to it. And these are the ones like I said, I work in a fair amount of different languages, and so I'll put that in there. Actually, let me see if I can do this here. So I have HTML and XML set up. So if I do a tag, let me see, P. Now when I hit the right bracket, notice how it closed my tag for me. So if you're doing HTML coding, you can have it where when you open or close a tag, when you open the tag, it will automatically close the tag for you. And it works the same way with XML, if I remember right. So if I change this to XML, because in a lot of ways they're the same, so it'll close the tag for me, right? I tried using that for a while. I thought I liked it, and then I realized I was so used to closing my own tags, I fought it too much, and so I don't have to actually use that too often. But it is nice that you can do that. But again, being able to go back and put in the language you're used to, and very quickly just saying, you know what, let me try a different Intellisense to see if it'll make this language pop, can come in really handy. Yeah, glad you're here, Cap Noden. See, you just joined a bit late. No worries. And by the way, Jackie's on vacation, so he's not joining us. The copy and paste, this one, you know what, if you work with a lot of people, let's go back into an actual AutoHotkey file. Let's say, you had something you wanted to email it to somebody. Well, what I love being able to do is when I hit paste, it pastes it with the Intellisense RTF, the rich text format, applied, right? So whoever I send this to will see, they don't even have to have Site, right? It will automatically show the Intellisense. And I think, if I remember right, I have created it where if I hit Control-Shift-C, I believe, now let me come back in here, and that's one I'll show you later also if you're interested, and paste. So see, I didn't have to, I don't know why, for the life of me, they don't have a hotkey built in for copy as RTF. It's everything else does, but that one doesn't happen to have one. But I did some tweaking to my user property files, which if you've never played with user property files, first thing is back it up, back it up, because you can really, when you start getting into it, you can mess things up and really tweak Site. And of course, you can restore it and install it. But that user property file is the end-all, be-all of customizing Site, and we'll talk about that in a couple minutes here. But the ability to copy as RTF, also you can save it, which save as, I didn't put that in my notes, but no, that isn't it. Maybe it's under export. There's a way where you can export them as a PDF, as I'm trying to remember, there was a couple formats where I was like, wow, that's actually interesting. Where were the export? Here we go. Export. Yeah, so you can export them as RTF, PDF, LaTeX, which that's, I think, more for a lot of educational universities use those for publishing, and as XML. And so those are all built into Site automatically, and you can export them as those types of documents. All right, the custom context menu. This is one of my favorite things of just being able, when I right-click, so see how my right-click, my context menu probably doesn't look anything like yours, right? Now, I didn't dig into it too deeply. I don't think this is the first undo down to, I think it's close, should look like the beginning of yours. I don't believe I can actually edit everything between here and here. However, after that, you can choose what to show in here. And so I like being able to turn off like the end of line with the, or view the white space, which you probably can't see these dots up here. But where is view in white space, view in line? But the fact that I can customize this, and here actually, let me see here, if I have a file, a path. Unfortunately, those won't work. I need a hard path. Let's do this. I'm going to copy path of this file. So that's one I added here. And now when I paste, that is the path to this file I'm in. And so what I'll often do is, let's say this was on an include, I can highlight it, and actually, let's do this. I'm going to cut it from here. I'm going to come over here. You know what? Let me close this. So let's say I was working in a different file that had that path in it. what I can do is I can highlight it and right click and say open file a path. I wrote all this, by the way, this open file of path selected, and then I remind myself don't include the quotes. So I can hit this and it'll automatically pop that file open for me. And so between the two of those, the copy path of this file, which can be really handy because that I will use as a reference in other scripts, but also if I have a reference to a script, I can just highlight it and hit that and it pops it open for me. Right, so that both of those come in really handy. Search and replace with regex. Let's do a quick example here. So hopefully y'all are at least somewhat topically familiar with regex or regular expressions. They are both the most amazing thing in the world, and they'll also more than likely, when you first start them, beat your head against a wall, because simple ones typically often you can get to work, but boy, you start getting them more complex and it gets tricky. I made a tweak in mind to use, I think it's pronounced POSIX, and that helped it make it more simpler. But let's do a simple, let's say I had this across multiple lines and I wanted to get rid of the line breaks. And so I can come in here and put /r/n, and I'm going to replace it with, I think that'll work for a tab. I'm going to turn on regular expressions, replace all. Oh, do I need maybe get rid of that? Nope. Do I not have? End of line. No, those are there. /n. Boy, what am I missing here? That looks like that should work. Man, I'm drawing a blank. Sorry, I should have practiced this a bit more. I did it earlier too, but regex can be pretty awesome at using it inside of stuff. You can also look for certain words and swap them and what you want. But the POSIX things makes it a lot easier to have to comment out all the curly braces or sorry, parens. So list of extensions to open. Actually, that was to remind myself of that this language thing up here that I can pick and choose and apply what Intellisense I want. This highlight multiple instances of each word I find really helpful. So if I'm defining variable, you know what? Let me get rid of this in the lines. So let's say I had my dog as a variable, and then later I was referencing it and I said my doggy. Well, of course that's not. Or let's do it there. It doesn't. Those aren't the same. But the second I get rid of this, notice how it shows me the other one is highlighted. Right now, I can feel good that these are both the same word, the same variable. And so often, especially, I actually implemented this because in Python is case sensitive, and this and the one above it are not the same. And so it was really, really helpful because, man, I would beat my head against a wall because, of course, AutoHotkey and many other languages aren't case sensitive, and that this in AutoHotkey, this and this are fine, right? Those will be treated as the same. But in Python, they're two different variables, and it just drove me nuts. And so that was one of the things I would realize, hey, why isn't that highlighted? Oh, okay, I need them to be the same case, and when you do, then they show it. And earlier, I think right before we started the webinar, I was discussing with Jean earlier this morning of this feature, and he's like, oh, okay, it underlines it. Well, I have it underlining it, but in SciTE, you could go back and you could tell it, see how like this yellow background is there because the line I'm on? You can go and tell it whatever you want to do. It could be highlighted like it is in red, right? It could be whatever you want. I just didn't want to go that far, and this was enough for me to be able to spot them everywhere. All right, so that was on change color highlighting word font. So when you search in SciTE, so I'm going to hit find next, and here see how nice and bright and pink it is. By the way, another one, if you don't know this, if you're on something, you just hold down Control and scroll up with your mouse, and I think it's also the page up and down or the plus and minus button are great easy ways to zoom in and out of your window. But when I searched for it before in SciTE, when I would do this, it had for me in it had this very faint pink color, and I could barely notice that where it was found on the page. And so I changed it to where the coloring would be much stronger and made it easier for me to spot. The other one, let's say if and I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this, but I'm going to search for something that's not on my file. And now when I search for it, I don't know if you guys could hear that, but I've customized the warning that comes up, the sound. And so it's just a stupid thing to me, but it says inconceivable from Princess Bride. But that was a fun thing I did. And then the custom status bar. This is an awesome one. I used to play with this a lot. And see down here, my status bar, I actually personalized that. And so as you see here right now, selection is 0 in column 1. Well, as I start highlighting things, see how it gets updated? So now it says 5. So I know there's 5 characters in this word I've had highlighted here. And now I'm in the 6th column. And basically, I decided what to put in here and what's relevant to me. And that was another one of like, I used to work in email marketing, and the length of the subject line was, an important factor. And it was just really easy because I could be in here, highlight it, and I would know that's 36 characters. I don't have to do anything. And it's just always available. But again, you can put it to whatever you want. This one, notice the last modified on it hasn't been saved, but my site user properties. So here I have I show the path to it. I show the last modified at I think today on 7/18, yeah, at 2:54. I also, by the way, customized this top one to show me the path to the file I'm in and how many windows I have open. Which actually, that reminds me, I didn't list it in my cheat sheet, but another great one I use a lot. Let's say I want to have a second site window open, and this one I use a ton. In Site, it sucks because there's no built-in way easily to do it. But I have it, if I hold down Alt and Shift and hit N, it opens up a second site window. So see, I have these 2 windows now. And often that comes in really, really handy. I also have it where instead if I hit CtrlAltO, it will open that file I was in the second window. And notice again, now it's actually open twice. This one, the big difference here is, see up here it has the actual site hotkey toolbar buttons, and in my other one it doesn't. And so that's the one tricky thing I'd say is you have to make sure if you're actually trying to launch the script, you keep the one you want for that. But it's super helpful to be able to have a second site window open. The other one I'll demonstrate here since I'm on the topic is I'm gonna launch a script, this second site window, which is, it sounds like everything I just did. However, it's slightly different, and I haven't used it in years. At first, I really liked it, and then I ended up doing it this way. But let me see if it's going to work here. So there we go. So I just hit the same my hotkey for opening up a new window, but notice it tiled them, not layered, but tiled, right? And this way, it automatically. Basically, what is that in? I think it's a Word. You could split the page, and this allows me to even be in the same file. Right here again, I can say copy path of this file, and I'm going to open it. I should have just hit my other hotkey, but now I can be at 2 separate spots in the same file and look at them at the same time, right? And it's super helpful to be able to do that on a big file. So that is one which I'll give you guys the link to that in a bit. Those are some of the great things that I find of value, and I'd love to hear if y'all have anything also when you're trying to understand. Captain Odin, sorry, I was babbling on. What was really useful when trying to understand other people's scripts? I mean, the Intellisense for me is amazing for that, right? Just to be able to highlight code. Hopefully he'll chime in here in a second. So we're going to move on here to configuring hotkeys. So I have links here where I've done on my website, and again, you know what, I'm just going to do it this way. I have posts where I think I have, I don't know, around 16 posts. But here are ways that you can customize, and now, actually I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up here in Site in a second. However, I just wanted to show you guys, I have videos walking through each and every one of these things. So if I go too fast, don't worry about it, because either you can, of course, rewatch this webinar, or you can go to the links, which actually it's exactly that thing of creating the hotkeys that I did, right? And so let's go ahead and open. Again, actually, how many guys? Okay, thank you, Catmo, for highlighting the instance of a word. Absolutely. I'm curious, how many of you guys customize your user properties file? And that, by the way, you would, let me close it here and do it again just to show you. I'll close this one too. I don't care about that. So under options, this user properties files, there's a global and then there's a user, are the two main ones. The global one you shouldn't really play with, right? It's the user properties. If I remember correctly, the user property file gets applied after basically all the other stuff. And so you make your tweaks to that file, and that way, regardless of what other, like the site for AutoHotkey has set up, and there's other settings too, your user property files gets applied last and will basically overwrite what they were set in the other ones. And so my user properties file, let me get rid, how do I get rid of that other site window? I don't know. Let me exit out of it and see if that doesn't, nope. I'll just close it all and reopen it. Oh, look at that, it stayed open. Now I'm at a loss for how and it's not even anywhere. Let me exit it from here, maybe. There we go. Okay. So by the way, I have mine, if I hit Control-Alt-E in AutoHotkey, that's not a site thing, but I'll just show you real quickly here. It's a nice shortcut to say, Control-Alt-E runs edit, which will pull up whatever file that is in. And so it's just a hotkey that if it's running, it'll automatically pop open that file. And since I'm always updating my AutoHotkey main file, it loads it, the next one reloads it, and this one can pause it, which I actually forgot I even had. The suspend, actually, that was something else. Anyway. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, it's bad. Anyway, all right, where was I? Oh yeah, the user properties files. So let me get back to the user property file. So here, and at first I was going to show you the hotkeys. That's what we were on. So this is where I've defined my hotkeys that I've added to site. And so here I say Control-Alt-C, and this IDM RTF, this is what tells it to when I hit Control-Alt-C. So the Control-Alt-C is not an AutoHotkey thing. Right? That's a site thing. So that will work in any, regardless of what type of file I'm in, that will copy the RTF version of the text that's highlighted. And let me actually, so this URL here, which again I have in that PowerPoint document, I'll email it out a bit after the webinar. So these are things that you can go and look up, right? And here's basically, this is the command you'd put in your code. Here's the copies RTF, and this tells you basically a little bit closer to what it's actually doing, right? And so these are things that you can automatically just put it here in the same format. So you first write the hotkey that you want it to use, put in a pipe, put in that command, I think it's called a command. Yeah, and then put in a pipe, and then this backslash in Site is telling it, if I remember right, to basically continue a long line. So we could have these all together, but you put them like that, and it'll basically say, hey, the thing following this is part of it. And so this is how you can add. And now let me right click here. Oh wait a minute, that's the hotkeys. Sorry, I was thinking of my context menu because it's very similar also. Jean, I think that was you asked how do I do that? The highlighting, and actually I'll even do it in this file here. But Control-Shift up and Control-Shift down, right? These are the commands I'm literally highlighting right here that are doing those. So it's 2620, and you know what? That's a great point. Is what in the world's 2620? So I don't know why. I don't know Site that well, right? In the sense of down to that granular of a level, but these are the command text, but also these key commands, and that's where if we find, what was it, 2620? So They're not in. Of course, they're not in order. Why would they be in order? Okay, so move selected lines down and move selected lines up, right? And so I went in and I found these numbers, these two numbers, and then in my user properties file, I put them right in here, right in where the command goes, and that is how I was able to highlight stuff and just let's do a bunch of it, right? I can highlight it and move it up or down. So I mentioned earlier, I actually had looked this up before and tried it, and for some reason it didn't work. What happened, what I was doing incorrectly, was I had put something like this that said, and unfortunately, what I didn't realize was by having this as a comment as anything that begins with the pound sign in your user properties file, by not having them not consensual in the same order, right? They're not directly. That was breaking it. So everything beneath this didn't work, and so once I got rid of that, then everything worked fine. This other show call tip, of course, that'll show you the pop-up of if you're in typing something. This stop execute, now for AutoHotkey, it didn't really matter, but for Python, I would launch a script within Site, which was really cool because I could come up here and hit this button, or actually I'd hit Control-R if I remember right, and it would launch my Python script, and it would use this output window, which was really cool. But I had no way to stop it. There was no icon on the system tray. And I'm like, how in God's name do I stop this? So I had this where I could hit Control Escape. I also think I added it, the stop execution to my context menu. So both of those allowed me to be in the script and either do either of those, and it would stop my script from running, which was really helpful. Let me go back to my cheat sheet. Customize your status bar. So that was the hotkeys. Let's look at the status bar line. So now we're actually going through how you do these updates. I have, and I'll make this file available too, right? This is my file. Let's see, we're on line 342. 342, let me jump down to that. So I have 590 lines in this file. Actually, I just realized I could have looked at my status bar, right? Because I have that of what line I'm on and how many lines there are, right? I didn't even have to scroll down like I did. And now I can go back to 342. But I put in a lot of the comments from a website, which I'll show you also, where I got it from Scintilla, the home site. So here I'm telling it, make the status bar visible. Also, it's very, very important, if I'm right, do not have any spaces. This does not work. So if I save this, actually, I don't know if it'll update. No, I don't think it updates dynamically in the status bar. A lot of things in Site, the second you save them, they apply like that. You don't need to reload it. But some things are not hot. They're not active, and they need you to actually exit out of Site and restart it. But here I'm telling it, make my status bar visible, and you can say how many you want. And here is where I've customized my my status bar. And so I said, this is just from digging around, and here are some of the other things. I put them all in here. I built all this stuff up, and then I leave them here in case I change my mind of what I want to have in my status bar, but I disabled most of them. I had multiple status. I had up to 6, I guess, and then I had a hotkey or something. I could iterate over them, and I realized it's just too much stuff that I never use. But this selection length, this pound selection length, right, and here I have the word SELC, so to remind me that's selection, and then this is the site variable that basically says that to go get the length of the code you have selected. And so again, I can look here and say that's 12 characters, right? And then also what column I'm in, the column number, right? So that's where the word column here, column, and I'm starting, if I remember right, it's the starting position. Oh no. So it's it lists the ending position of what you have highlighted. So that's what that 65 is. The line number, so line number of number lines, right? So that's how I built this part. And in this example here, the pipe is just a straight up text divider. So I can easily see that there are, add some space here. I have plenty of space, so I like breaking things up a bit. and put in the last modified file time, file date. But you can see I could put in the time, the current time, which I did, but then because, as I mentioned before, I have this up here, I just never used it. But there's a lot of things you can do for your status bar. The default magnification level, it sounds silly, but on a laptop, I had a really hard time. Every time I'd open Site, I had to zoom in some, right? And so, and actually I can also choose, this is the output, so this is your output window, which, by the way, I have a hotkey. I can hit Control-T, and it will toggle that. I think I added that. I don't think that's default. But the magnification is, I set it to 1. And that's for the output, but also, I thought it was right around here. Come on. So just magnification equals 1 will change what that default is. And so let me change that to 3. Did that? No. All right, I'm going to change this to 4, save it. I'm going to close Site. And now when I restart Site, it should have adopted, which I think that was, we go back to 1, close it. Yeah, so it's dynamically changing that view. Whoa, that's weird. I'm hitting Control F and it wasn't. Here we go. Oops. I think Control Shift U. No, Control Alt U. No. I have a hotkey to get to my user properties file. I just haven't used it in a long time. I don't remember what it was. So that's how you can change that default view of, this is for the default for the main, and then the output one was for down here. These settings here are what can change the color code stuff. Of course, there are, which I don't use and I don't want to change mine, but somewhere is the templates that you can have the background. I was talking to John earlier. He has his of the darker view. There's something like Hat of God, I think, or some other ones. I got used to years ago just having a clear setting, and so that's what I like. But obviously, there's a lot of built-in templates you can do that. Oh, is it really Hot of Gold? Oh, okay, yeah. Hat of Gold, okay. Yeah, and then I see John also wrote there, is it an option which makes the search bar? Yeah, the search bar appear at the lower part of the screen. Yeah. So this is why also, like I said, I'll give you guys this file because I've spent a lot of time on it. And basically, I've copied and pasted in most of the stuff of what it does, and then I have the setting. And so the projects find replace POSIX, find place match case. So this is setting. Oh, here we go. The find use strip. So if I change this to 1, it will use the strip down below. And so when I hit Control F, it doesn't pop up as this thing. It'll just be down below. And let's see if that's one that if I change that to 1 and save it, and I want to hit Control F. So notice down below now, it popped up down here. To me, I definitely see benefits in that it doesn't overwrite the message boxes, or the box that opens doesn't cover up the code. But I don't know why that just seems small to me. And if I could increase the overall font size of this, which I haven't looked to see if I can, and also these, I don't use it enough where I'm like, it just seems like weird to me. I'm sure I would get used to it. But that find, where did it go? Find strip. So I'm going to say 0, save it. I guess I got to close that. And now when I hit Control F, it pops back up here. And these just made more sense to me that I would know what I'm looking for. Save settings, find what. so there's just lots of things you can tweak in there. The finder place, you can these toggles here, you can choose what is on and off by default. Anyway, those are all those settings. Let's see what I have on my little cheat sheet here. Okay, let's look how you import additional languages. As I said, I have over 70. I know that. I know I've added more lately, but I just haven't imported them into my zip file that I have available right now. But here, oh, you know what? Darn, I didn't cover it earlier. But I create a SiteHome variable, which is what I'm describing right here. And I do that mainly because I work on, or I used to work on, a lot of different computers, probably about 5 computers, not every day, but close to it. And of course, if I would update one setting on one computer, I'd have to remember to go do it on all the other computers, and I could never keep everything straight. So my solution to that, I forget who, maybe it was Fink, someone mentioned, you can create a SiteHome variable. Let me see if I can actually, let's see. Yeah. Where is that? Under Control Panel to System. I'll show you where it is. I'm going from memory here, so bear with me. So user no. Is it here? No. I'm trying to remember where you, oh, environmental, here we go. So this environmental variables, see this site_home? I created this variable, so basically you come in, you say new, you give it a name. Now this is something you can't change, right? Because it's built into Site, if I remember correctly. It has to be this site_home name, and then you point to whatever folder you want, right? And that will tell Site, always look there as your main default folder. And so what I did was I did that on all of the computers, and now everywhere I updated on one, and they're all under Dropbox, by the way. And so that allows me to update once in one place, and it updates everywhere with the same settings. So that was very helpful for me, because it was really annoying where I'd get confused. So I wanted to bring that up because this is how you import your properties files. And basically, let me pop up. Actually, I'm going to say copy path of this file. And now I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to show you. So under here, this is my site, and this is where I put my home folder. And then under properties, these are the property files, right? And so you'll see each of these, AU3, HTML, JSON, right? You'll see a lot more, obviously. Let me sort of alphabetical. So here's the AU3 API. JSON, looks like I had a backup one. I'll go ahead and get rid of that. But just because they're sitting here, Site doesn't use them, right? You have to tell Site, hey, I want to import that file. And what that'll do is that will make it available. And if you've also told it, actually within those files, if I remember right, let me open this one and see. I'll just drag it on. Oh, come on. So here, at the beginning of it, it tells it the extensions to look for that file. And that's how it knows if I open a .json extension to use the IntelliSense in this file for it. There's not a lot in this file. But the other ones, you can go through and look at them. And here's, like I'm saying, I have, well, let's see. I know it's not perfect, but there's 98 files in here. Some of them are some backup versions and stuff. But there are a lot of different property files. Some of them are like the global user and property files, so those don't count. But you can use them in a lot of, it has the IntelliSense for a lot of different languages. And so if you work in different languages, it's really helpful. So that only covers the automatic application of it. Now, what I demonstrated earlier when I was coming through in language and can choose these, that is what, and let me see if I can grab this as a picture. There we go. So notice right here, this menu language, if you want to do like I do and be able to toggle between them without actually changing the extension, these are the settings. This is how you do that, right? Is basically you add it to your menu language, and so you just follow this format. And I have it. It explains it pretty clearly here. Of you put in the menu the string you want to show, so I can change what's to the left of this and to have basically whatever I want, and then the file extension that it'll apply to, and then if you have a keyboard equivalent, which I think is like a hotkey, but that will allow you to just toggle and change the IntelliSense that you're using for that language, which again, I find incredibly helpful. All right, so let's see, where are we? That's there. The this output area, this is actually a function I wrote. So I'm trying to remember if it was Finks or whoever, but the Site is you can connect to it via a COM object. And if you don't know about COM objects, check out our webinar on COM objects. They're incredibly helpful. It's great that Site has that ability because let's say, oh boy, I'm trying to think of where. All right, I'm just going to copy some text from the chat. So here is this. So I'm putting that all into a variable. And now if I did a message box, and I'm going to have to save this. So of course I have a folder called test. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Oh, I can't have the, there we go. I think that's it. Yeah, so I could obviously throw this up in here, but when you get to have, actually, let's just do this. A lot of text, right? Message boxes start looking pretty ugly. So what I did was I have a function, this site output, which I can run this, and I'll check this out. So when I run it, I gotta save it first, and run it, it dumps all the output into this second window, right? So instead of building a GUI, which I have a hot string for that as well, which would also now I'll do both, so you can just get a handle on it. So that just created this GUI here, and I use hot strings like crazy, just because why not? It's AutoHotkey, right? But it's great because sometimes I'll have pages and pages of text that I'm trying to look through. Like especially you do an API call and I get a bunch of XML data, I can dump it right here and really easily evaluate it and look at it. And so that's one that it's a site function that I wrote. It's super straightforward. Let me pop it open real quickly here. So this is the whole function. It actually has, I can tell it, the default will just dump the text right there. And I have it where it's set to 1 to clear the output window first, but you could turn that off and have it not clear it. It also adds a line break by default, but you can turn that off. And also, which I never use, and I thought about getting rid of it, but I've left it there, is this will actually exit the script that you're in. And so it just connects to the current existence of Site and dumps whatever you want to that output window. And so I find that really helpful in dealing with big text. We already covered the multiple instances of Site, but I have the hyperlinks here. Like I said, I'll send this out later. Let's go ahead and, let me do this other one first, and then we'll jump back to debugging because this one's simple. So let's say I was in my other script, which and I wanted to just run a certain part of it. So let's say I was testing this, and I had a lot of other text, and I just want to test what is highlighted. Well, I have it where I can hit Control-R, and of course it breaks. What happened? Did message box hi? I ran into this the other day. It was working fine though. I think it had maybe it had something. Let me get rid of this. Yeah, of course I get a call. Weird. Sorry, I had to kill that call. Yeah, I get it. But I know I just tested this the other day. Let me put it in my main file and see if for some reason if that helps it at all. Or I'll just even, because this is where I tested it. Control R. Yeah, operation available. I'll have to look at that. Maybe I can't imagine that being open matters. That's odd, but weird. Yeah, I just tested that the other day and it was working fine. Normally, I can highlight text and run it, and it will run it without having to run the entire file. And again, I tested that just the other day, and then now it's acting. I have seen that error before, so that's not entirely new to me. I just don't understand what's going on. And anyway, who was that? There's, yes. The SiteHome variable is built in your environmental variables under Windows, and like I said in the video, you can watch it, or on my, I'll just show you here. If we go to on my main page, this is where I have, looks like about 16 different posts on doing stuff with Site, and one of them, so creating a home variable. This walks you through the process for creating a home variable. And basically what I do is I make that the folder I point to is under Dropbox, and every computer that I'm using has that same folder. And even if the path is different, it doesn't matter, of course, because you just, on each computer, you create that home variable pointing to that folder, and then Site uses that basically as like the root to where it looks for things. And that's what gets around all the issues. And it comes in really, really handy. And actually back here I have, so this is also a link to the output pane, that function that I was just demonstrating here. And of course how to use it and stuff, but it comes up, it's really helpful. All right, let's get back into, all right, so the debug, which, man, depending on how complex the stuff is that you're doing, it can really be incredibly helpful. Let me close my user properties files for now. Yeah, we can leave that open. And actually, let's say I wanted to debug this file. What you can do is you press this little, which kind of looks like a bug, right, or hit F7, and that gets you into debug mode, and it'll start. You can step through it. Now, of course, there's not much in the script, right? But you can also view like your global variables, and what data is stored in them. You can even mouse over. So notice when I mouse over var, see it's starting to show. Doesn't show all of it. It truncates what's in the variable. But you know what? Let me stop and let me create a few more so I can demonstrate this a little better. And then so I'm trying to create a, oops, and that's wrong. There we go, that should be better. There we go. Okay, now, and let's truncate this thing down just because we don't care if it's long now. So now when I start debugging this, let me get back up my variable list. And as we start stepping through it, you can see new variables that come, and here's the, oh, that's showing the clipboard. This var is yes. The DA now has hello world, and this is what I was also demonstrating. If you mouse over it, you can also see what is in them, which can be helpful. Let's step one more here. Now notice this is an object, but you can double click and show what's actually in it. And the newer version, Evil C was mentioning on the forum, and I haven't gotten around to testing it yet, but I think when I iterate over this and I hit next, it will close this window. But here's a way you can peek inside your variable, I'm sorry, your objects to see what data values are there. You can actually even update it, which is pretty cool. And I can say update, and now when we look at what's in there, well, I swear it works, but it does in the. Let me try it in these. I'll just change this to hello. Update. And now notice hello is there. And so you could dynamically actually change the content of a variable as you're stepping through it. And you can step around, and there's call stacks to show you. Here's the call stack to show you where you are in your script and how you're jumping to using like go subs or functions. It's incredibly helpful. We have a webinar on debugging, and that's why I said I didn't want to get too much into it in here. And we're actually hitting the 1 hour mark already, which means I've been babbling for an hour already. But let me go back here and see if there's anything else obvious. So that's a debug. Let me close this and this. Here are some links to, there's the main site for AutoHotkey. I will bet you all of you guys have seen this thread on the forum. This is a link to that page I showed you of mine. There are, and this is another link on mine. Let me pull it up though to show you built-in hotkeys for Site. I just went through and listed them, and I bolded the ones I use frequently. But here are, I think it was 42. I counted them of what they automatically built into Site that you wouldn't realize that were there. So there's a lot of functionality to have hotkeys assigned to them automatically. So I listed them out there. There's also one which I forgot to link to. I'll have to go find it, but it documents the all those commands. Which let me. Well, I'll have it. Oh, it's just here. So there's the. Let me at least pull up this one. This is where I used to learn a lot about what I was trying to do. The scintilla documentation, and so. Actually, that isn't even the one. This one covers some stuff, but I think it's maybe this one. No, there's one more that really. Let me see if it was the. This one. They're linked on the scintilla page, but they're tough to get around. And find. Here we go. Here's that. But there's actually one other page. Let me bear with me here one more second. Let me get back to my user properties because I know I have it in there. Try that one because I need to make sure I put it. Okay, that's not. This is. Oh. Yeah, this is the one I was thinking of. This one also, I would just go through, and let's say I was trying to find it where I wanted to deal with the zoom or magnification is what it was called. So here's how I learned how to set that magnification and output magnification. Right, it sets the default to 0, smaller size, and positive makes it larger. Wait. Negative value makes the size smaller, and okay. So the beginning is 0. That's interesting. But this is where I went through and read how to do a lot of this stuff. So let me make sure I put that in here. See, I would have thought that was the documentation link, but for some reason it isn't. There we go. So at least it's in there now. And here are the links to the other files. So I didn't mention it, but I kind of played with it. There's the one script that I use right now that will dynamically look at what's in my current file, and then there's this other one by zero byte that you can point it to specific folders and files and tell it, hey, go look at those files, and then either pull back the labels or pull back the functions. And I forget if they can pull back other stuff. But it'll iterate over all of them and make them available in AutoHotkey. And it builds, maybe Jean can remember for me, but it builds a, oh, that was right. It was weird, is there's an API file, and let me see if it should be maybe not there. Sorry, I'm trying to VB API. No, PHP API. There's a custom AutoHotkey API file that it builds. HK properties. Oh, this user HK API. I don't know why I can't drag that on there. That's weird. So this, and it's kind of a crazy format in it, but you can see I have over 4,000 lines of stuff to functions and things that'll automatically pull in. But then this user API, I think this is how I had to go edit it to use. Oh, and look at that! I'm using my site user home thing, but it's auto-populating the things from my file. Okay, so bear with me 1 second here. I'm going to stop the recording, and then I'll start it again. So stop recording.